Welcome to another edition of the Who Scoop video. I'm Jarret Johnson. I'm joined by the mighty Joe Yeager. Mighty Joe, man, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. I'll tell you, it's the team that's mighty right now.
Absolutely. 7 in a row. And the last 4 they won by double digits. Texas Tech's 22-4 overall. 10-3 in the Big 12. Mighty Joe, just 5 games left with a 1-game lead over mighty Kansas, who's won 13 straight Big 12 championships. So a lot of excitement around the program, just coming off that 88-78 win over Oklahoma on Tuesday night. Mighty Joe, what was your big takeaway? You were right there on the press row. What was your big takeaway from Tech's win?
Yeah, it's just, it's something that's really, you've seen develop over these last 3 wins, okay? And that's the Tech seems to get locked into these really tight battles at halftime, and, it's just nip and tuck, tied down 1, something like that. But then, in the second half, they just start putting the screws to teams, and they just grind them on down, man. And it's kind of an overpowering basketball team. I mean, you talked earlier, I believe in an earlier mailbag or hoop scoop about how it's like a power running team. I think it was a podcast you said that. Power running team with a good defense. So that's the way it is. I mean, they just start mashing people, and they've just done it 3 games in a row where they just take over midway through the second half and then they just go cruising on to victory, and they kind of win going away. And that's exactly what they did with Oklahoma. And it's like teams at this point are kind of powerless to really stop them once they really get rolling and get to grinding them down. And that's what they did against Oklahoma, and it's always impressive to see.
In addition to them grinding teams down, they have like the ultimate closer right now in Keenan Evans. Is it safe to say he's the best player in the Big 12? I mean, and he pretty much really proved it. I thought that going into the game against OU, but of course, Trae Young, who's spectacular, he outplayed Trae Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but if I had a vote, he's the MVP right now. I mean, these are 2 teams and 2 players that are heading in the opposite direction right as we get down to crunch time. One team is in first place in Big 12 by a game over Kansas. The other one is no longer in contention, really, in Oklahoma. So, I mean, you always do that. I mean, you always figure in, okay, well, we want to reward a really good player on a bad team or a really good player on a great team. And I think you just got to look at the overall context. And if you do that, he is the MVP. Right now, he's playing better than any other player in the league. And in fact, I think you could probably say Javon Carter right now is playing better than Trae Young too. I think maybe some people figure that the media blitz, especially from ESPN, and all the hype that occurred in the first half of the season is going to result in Young automatically winning all these awards and everything. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I like to think that people are a little bit smarter than that and realize what's going on, because if they do, then Keenan is your guy.
Yeah, Oklahoma's lost 7 of 9 in 4 straight. Yeah, you're not the player of the year in a conference when you finish middle of the pack and you lose that many times. That's just not the way it works, even with ESPN's media blitz. But let's talk about what's really going on here. And this is crazy, but at 10-3 with 5 games remaining, like I mentioned before, Tech is up 1 game on Kansas and 2 on West Virginia, who had a slump, but boy, they've come back and they look like West Virginia again. Tech plays 3 on the road. I believe West Virginia has 2 on the, or I believe Kansas has 2 on the road. I know Tech plays both West Virginia there and then Kansas at home, which, let's face it, that game's facing up to being like the game of the century or whatever for Texas Tech basketball. Not for Kansas, but for Texas Tech basketball, it's really setting up to be the game, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't quite thought of it like that, actually, but this is that, assuming, I mean, even if you lose to Baylor this week, that's probably the biggest game in the history of Texas Tech basketball.
Whoa,
I think it's safe to say that.
Wow.
Maybe that North Carolina win in 90.
Non-tournament.
Definitely non-tournament, because never in Tech's past has Tech been in a conference that is as powerful, as respected as the Big 12, and have the shot to win this thing outright and dethrone a 13-time defending champ in the process. I mean, when people were looking at teams or programs that might be able to to finally knock Kansas off. Who would have said it was going to be Texas Tech a few years ago? You would have thought West Virginia or maybe even Baylor or Texas or somebody like that, or Oklahoma. Sure, absolutely Oklahoma. But Tech would have been probably about the last team you would have thought, and yet here it is, second year into Beard's tenure, and it looks like that could happen. It's crazy.
You mentioned Beard right now, and there's still a lot of season left. But right now, I mean, come on, they're top 10, won 7 in a row. They're undefeated at home. What stands out to you the most about Chris Beard?
Well, I tell you, you know, he's got like rock star talent as a coach. I mean, and he is going to be, if he's not already a rock star among college basketball coaches. But you know what? He's got a down-to-earth persona about him too. I mean, he's not like coming into the press conference like Robert Plant with the shirt on, a bunch of gold medallions and the shades on.
You know, he might, if he watches this, he might now that he's.
Yeah, you never know. He's gonna have to grow some hair out a little bit to be a real rock star. But I mean, he likes coming in there and shooting the breeze and just being one of the guys. You know, and that's an interesting thing about him, I think. But man, just the guy can just flat out coach. And you've mentioned, I've noticed on the boards about how he has a plan.
Oh man,
he has a plan. He's got everything. Yeah, it's just so meticulous. He's like plans to conquer the world or something. You know, he's not leaving anything to chance. You know, it's but you know, a lot of your greatest coaches, I think, really are detail-oriented people and micromanagers, and that's, you know, you don't necessarily want that for your boss or something like that, but for a coach, you know, that's what you want, because those guys, you know, they're just not leaving anything to chance, and when you do that, there's not a lot of mistakes and errors and things like that, and things kind of work together towards that plan, and that's definitely him. That's Chris Beard.
I mentioned 16-0 at home this year, 17 wins in a row in Lubbock. It seems like every time Tech wins a big game, there's some kind of drama, like, oh, those horrible people out in Lubbock, which the irony is I'm from the Metroplex, and some of the nicest people in the world are out here in West Texas, especially compared to like a big city in DFW. That's one of the big draws for me. But that being said, what kind of home court advantage? I mean, obviously they're undefeated, but what's been different about this season maybe as opposed to, I don't know, past 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it gets better and better as the season goes along. You know, as the team wins more and as the profile rises, then more and more fans come out. Obviously, you had the camping out and of the students this time around, you know, and we're out there early in the day. And so this reminds you of what it was like during Bob Knight's top years. The same stuff was going on. Or Mike Leach with the football program, same thing going on. And so the more you win and the more publicity there is, the more the excitement and the intensity builds. The crowds get larger. Tech's average attendance now is well over 10,000, so it keeps on climbing, and with these next two sellouts, it's going to be probably close to 12,000 average by the end of the year.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when the stadium holds, or the arena holds 15,000, so 12,000, and then you look at early in the season where Tech was an afterthought, you know, you're playing Maine and South Alabama, so really, really spectacular. Awesome. Yeah, and it's becoming, you know, like I said in that article last night, just a real snake pit, which is what you want.
Absolutely. I've always said a little hint of fear is what you want in every crowd. I mean, I'm not saying I want there to be a riot, but I'm saying I want everybody in the house to realize there is a mob mentality and anything can happen. Like I said, you hope nothing bad happens, of course.
You don't want a riot, but you like the possibility of a riot is a good thing, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, you bluff a little bit, that's all. All right, you mentioned Baylor. They're hot. They struggled early. I mean, Tech whipped them by, I think, 24 to open Big 12 play. Now they're healthy now. They've been on a roll. They just won in Austin, I believe, on Monday night by 2 in overtime. Like I said, 4 in a row, and you're going to go out to Waco to play them. Mighty Joe kind of set it up for us. What kind of matchup is this going to be for the Red Raiders?
Yeah, 4 in a row. They're just about as hot as anybody, and 3 of those 4 wins have come by double digits as well. And one of those was pounding Kansas in Waco.
Yeah.
Their one close game was the one you mentioned against Texas, and that was on the road.
In Austin.
In Austin. Yeah, I mean, Tech's got their hands full. They got the big kid, Atchewell, back who did not play in the earlier game against Texas Tech. So that's going to help them. And they play that zone defense, okay? And that's something you got to get ready for with Baylor. And, you know, I got to say, Oklahoma had some success with that zone defense in the second half against Texas Tech. And actually, it may have been the first half. I really don't recall for sure. But Tech was rolling on offense. They went to that zone. It was either a 1-3-1 or a 2-3. And I think Tech had empty possessions 3 out of 4 or something like that. So they're going to need to get that together, and they will. They'll be ready for that. But good team. Manuel Lecomte, their point guard, is as quick as any guard in the conference. You got to keep him out of the paint. And as far as dealing with that zone defense, Zaire Smith is going to be the key.
I was just going to say that. I think that too.
Right.
Work in the middle of free throw line extended.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. That's Beard likes to have him right in the middle of that zone as your facilitator. I noticed this against Rice, that early game, the throwback game. Because Tech was having all sorts of trouble with Rice's zone. They make some adjustments at halftime. Zaire's in the middle of that zone, and suddenly things start flowing. He starts finding cutters along the baseline, and then Tech finally blows him out. And he likes to have Zaire in that spot because he's a very poised, mature player, doesn't panic. He can handle all that whirling action around him, and he doesn't get flustered or anything like that. And he's a good passer. He's got good vision. So look for Zaire to play a key role in this game. But it's going to be a tough one. It really is.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one Saturday. Tech looks for 8 straight. Like I said, they're up 1 game on Kansas with 5 to go. 22-4, 10-3 in the Big 12. Can't wait for the next one. I'm counting the days off for the next Red Raider game. Mighty Joe, great stuff from you as always. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.